Welcome to Secrets of the Eternal. Explore truths and mysteries of the universe. No doubt you've heard some of the completely unexplainable stories about the moon. There are the strange structures that made front-page news of major publications, but were then dismissed from all media, even photoshopped out of official images. Then, there's the mysterious lunar wave videos of recent years, which seem to show the moon's image jumping, almost as if it were a projected hologram. You only need to search YouTube to find hundreds of videos documenting unusual lights, flurries, and unidentified flying aircraft departing and landing on the moon's surface. Yet the US supposedly stopped visiting the moon almost 50 years ago in 1973. Were all scientific questions answered back then? Or are we ignoring something potentially groundbreaking? Why are credible testimonies and puzzling observations so often dismissed? Could there be more to that glowing orb in our sky than meets the eye? If you dive deeper into the moon's mysteries, the discoveries may astonish you. For example, ancient historical references to the moon, its striking geometrical perfection, and even the testimonies of astronauts all appear to lead to a single incredible conclusion: that our moon is most likely not a natural celestial object at all. What if it is, in fact, a hollowed-out structure, an artificial satellite intentionally placed into Earth's orbit only a few 100,000 years ago? Some theories suggest advanced engineers masterminded this effort, not only to influence Earth's biology, but also to monitor and control its inhabitants. Although the moon may seem as natural as the ground beneath your feet, upon closer inspection, its peculiarities make one wonder. As NASA researcher Robin Brett once stated, "It seems easier to explain the non-existence of the moon than it does to explain its existence." But why would he say that? To start, no one can explain why the moon is millions of years older than the Earth itself. None of the prevailing collision theories convincingly account for this. Then there's its size. Compare it to other natural satellites in our solar system, and the moon's proportions don't make sense. If it were proportional to Earth, like other moons are to their planets, it would only be about 30 miles across. Instead, it's a staggering 2,160 miles wide, over 72 times larger. In fact, no other known natural satellite is as large in relation to the planet it orbits. Add to this the bizarre properties of its craters. Impacts of varying sizes and forces should create craters of varying depths, right? Yet the craters all share the same depth. What's even more puzzling is that when astronauts tried drilling into these craters, they struggled to penetrate the surface. And then, there are the unexpected discoveries of processed metals like brass, mica, and pure titanium, none of which are naturally occurring elements. These are materials used in architectural design, raising yet another question: how did they end up there? Still not convinced? Let's consider the mathematical and geometrical relationships between the Sun, Moon, and Earth. These connections are so astonishingly precise that they seem to defy every law of randomness. For instance, the Sun is exactly 400 times larger than the Moon, but also 400 times farther away, creating the perfect conditions for us to experience phenomena like total solar eclipses. And that's just scratching the surface. There's an array of numerical coincidences related to the numbers 366, 1092, and 273 that would convince even the staunchest skeptic. The odds of this kind of precision occurring naturally are so minuscule, the number wouldn't even fit on a screen. But perhaps the strangest fact of all is something we rarely stop to question: the phenomenon known as tidal lock. This is the seemingly miraculous condition where the moon's rotation perfectly matches its orbit, ensuring we always see the same side of the moon from Earth. The scientific community might frame this as entirely natural, but against all odds and natural laws, is it really? Or is there something more intentional about the moon's presence? One thing is certain, these mysteries are just the beginning. The scientific community might frame tidal lock as entirely natural, but against all odds and natural laws, is it really? Or is there something more intentional about the moon's presence? And if the mysteries we've discussed so far weren't astonishing enough, the moon's very relationship to Earth and the Sun defies all expectations and randomness. For starters, did you know that every single natural satellite in the cosmos is known to orbit around its home planet's equator? Yet our moon deviates from that rule, circling Earth at an inclination of 5 degrees relative to the equator. It's this exact angle, along with its specific elliptical orbit, distance, and speed, that creates the precise tidal flows and seasonal shifts necessary for life on Earth. And here's something even more perplexing. Consider the full solar eclipse, where the moon, from our perspective on Earth, appears to perfectly cover the sun. Factoring in size, distance, and alignment, it's a 1 in a trillion occurrence. Yet here we are, witnessing this exact phenomenon regularly. And if you've seen photos of a solar eclipse viewed from space, the scene becomes even more uncanny. It resembles an eye, as if the moon is an omnipresent watcher bound to Earth, silently observing it. This oddity alone raises questions about its purpose. Could it really just be a cosmic accident? But the moon's mysteries go deeper still. Factors such as its size, age, and mass further muddy the waters. Scientifically speaking, the moon shouldn't even exist. In addition to being unnaturally large for a satellite of our planet, it's significantly older than Earth by millions of years and possesses a lighter mass than it logically should. Without the moon, Earth would lose the gravitational stability it provides. The planet's tilt would become erratic, causing catastrophic wobbling, extreme changes in weather, and an inability to support life as we know it. So if the moon isn't just a random celestial anomaly, how did it get here? Could it have been placed? To uncover an answer, we must turn to historical accounts and consider a controversial question. Could ancient cultures have already known the truth? Remarkably, several ancient traditions, myths, and legends point to a time before the moon's tenure in Earth's skies. Many well-known Greek thinkers, such as Aristotle and Plutarch, wrote about an era described as the time before the moon. These were not isolated musings either. The name proselenes, which literally means those who were before the moon, was used to describe certain ancient tribes and groups. This exact concept isn't exclusive to Greek history either. Columbian legends reference a distant past when the heavens lacked the moon's glow. In Africa, the Zulu tribe narrates an extraordinary story in which the moon is described as an egg, its yolk removed, and brought to Earth's orbit by non-terrestrial beings they refer to as dragons. According to their account, the moon's arrival was catastrophic, shifting Earth's balance and causing massive cataclysmic events, including a great flood that nearly wiped out humanity. Could this Zulu legend connect to what geneticists now recognize as a moment in human history where our population bottlenecked? Somewhere between 150,000 and 200,000 years ago, humanity experienced a near-extinction event, reducing the genetic diversity of Earth's inhabitants to what scientists describe as mitochondrial Eve. This singular genetic ancestor of all modern humans is the point from which humanity rebounded. Could a catastrophic event, perhaps brought on by the sudden and deliberate arrival of the moon, be the explanation? Even more fascinating is the strange consistency of these stories across cultures that seemingly had no contact with each other. How could so many independent civilizations, spanning continents and separated by centuries, share myths about the moon's sudden arrival? From ancient Greeks to African tribes to South American legends, these accounts seem strikingly aligned. Could they all be describing the same event, an event that scientific history is only now beginning to piece together? Is it possible that the moon truly was brought here by some advanced civilization, as these legends suggest? While mainstream science dismisses these ideas, calling them fanciful or symbolic, the uncanny consistency of these tales makes you wonder, did humanity once witness the deliberate placement of our cosmic neighbor? The idea that the moon could have been deliberately placed in Earth's orbit is one of the most provocative theories we've explored so far. It challenges everything we think we know about celestial mechanics and natural occurrences. But as outlandish as it may sound, the evidence, the myths, legends, and scientific anomalies demands a closer look. If we are to accept the possibility that humanity's ancestors witnessed the moon's arrival, we must also examine why and how such a monumental act might have been carried out. Was the moon intended solely to stabilize the planet and create the conditions necessary for life? Or could it have an additional purpose, one that intersects with humanity itself? Ancient writings like the Sumerian tablets hint at the presence of extraterrestrial beings who intervened in the affairs of Earth. These tablets, some of the oldest known texts in human history, tell stories of beings referred to as the Anunnaki, who allegedly genetically modified early humans to serve as their labor force. How do we make sense of these accounts and their potential connection to the moon? Could the moon have been integral to such plans, a tool or even a base of operations for these beings? It's worth noting here that some of the moon's physical properties are far from the norm. Let's take its mass, for example. For a celestial body that is 1/4 Earth's diameter, its mass is puzzlingly disproportionate. The moon's mass is only 1.2% of Earth's. Compare this to what we would expect based on its volume, and the numbers simply don't add up. Why is this? Interestingly, in 1970, two Russian scientists, Mikhail Vasin and Alexander Sherbakov, published an article in Sputnik magazine titled, "Is the Moon the Creation of Alien Intelligence?" This groundbreaking theory proposed that the moon is not a natural satellite, but rather an artificial construct placed into our orbit by intelligent beings. Their reasoning was based on its precise placement, size, and functionality, all of which seemed designed with purpose rather than random chaos. Decades later, in 2006, British researchers Christopher Knight and Alan Butler expanded on the idea in their compelling book, Who Built the Moon? They highlighted an array of oddities surrounding the moon: its flawless geometry, its light yet massive structure, and the sequencing of mathematical relationships between its orbit, size, and distance from Earth. Their conclusion was bold. Knight and Butler argued that the moon's characteristics are so perfect for enabling life on Earth that it is irrational to believe it formed naturally. They suggested the moon might be a hollowed-out planetoid, intentionally brought into Earth's orbit by a vastly superior intelligence. The idea of a hollow moon brings us to one of the most famous and bizarre observations made during NASA's Apollo program. In November 1969, the Apollo 12 mission conducted an extraordinary experiment. After sending their lunar module crashing into the moon's surface, they observed something no one could have anticipated. The moon rang like a bell. Seismic equipment placed 40 miles away recorded vibrations that lasted nearly 40 minutes, with the impact's effect peaking after 8 minutes. Stunned by the discovery, NASA decided to replicate the experiment with the Apollo 13 mission. Using an even larger module, equivalent to 11 tons of TNT, they aimed for a similar crash. This time, the results were even more astonishing. Seismic monitors over 100 miles away recorded vibrations that reverberated like a gong for 3 hours. What does it mean when a celestial body rings? Natural, solid entities typically absorb such impacts and dissipate energy without prolonged vibrations. These findings suggested that the moon's structure is not what we thought. Could it be hollow? Could it contain materials or even chambers that amplify vibrations? NASA's results raised more questions than they answered, questions that the scientific community continues to shy away from exploring in depth today. Taken alongside the growing body of historical and scientific irregularities we've already discussed, isn't it time we reconsider the origin story of our closest cosmic companion? When we consider the breadth of evidence, the moon's geometric perfection, its anomalous craters, its locked orbit, its hollow reverberations during NASA's experiments, and even the presence of processed, non-natural elements, it becomes increasingly difficult to disregard the notion that there's more to the moon than meets the eye. But the plot thickens when we examine a series of photographs and first-hand accounts from astronauts that seem to suggest there may be mysterious structures on the moon's surface as well. It all started on November 23, 1966, when a manned moon orbiter captured images of no less than 6 tall structures standing on the lunar surface. These images were published in reputable outlets such as the Washington Post and the Los Angeles Times. At least one Boeing scientist commented on these photos, claiming the formations were far too geometric to be natural. Soviet aerospace engineer Alexander Abramov went further, noting how the arrangement of these spires mirrored the apexes of the 3 Great Pyramids in Egypt. Their shadows, cast over a nearby eroded pit area, formed perfect right angles, a feat that seemed too precise to occur randomly. NASA scientist Dr. Farouk El-Baz also admitted that these features appeared unnatural. They were taller than any building on Earth at the time. Yet NASA declined to explore further, dismissing the structures as a mere trick of light and shadow. The story vanished from mainstream media shortly thereafter. Years later, photos from the Apollo 17 mission reignited the debate. The same distinct right-angled structures visible in the earlier images appeared once again. However, these too received little to no proper investigation or explanation. Oddly, despite our advanced technology, photographs of the moon often remain blurry and poorly detailed. This has frustrated researchers for decades, especially when distant planets like Mars seem to yield sharper official imagery. A breakthrough came in 1994 when photographer Jose Escamilla used colorization techniques on photos taken by a moon orbiter from 100 miles away. His adjustments revealed hidden structural anomalies that were otherwise obscured in the original black and white images. If these structures do exist, the obvious question is, who built them? And if they are remnants from an advanced civilization, where are their architects now? Could these remnants tie in with the theories of an extraterrestrial presence hinted at by ancient myths and records? The unknowns surrounding these structures are compounded by peculiar accounts from Apollo astronauts themselves. Before the historic moon landing, the Apollo 10 mission flew around the far side of the moon. Transcripts from this mission reveal the crew experienced something truly eerie, a phenomenon they described as outer space music. These sounds, inexplicable and otherworldly, were unlike anything the astronauts had encountered before. Interestingly, similar electromagnetic, radio-like sounds have since been recorded by NASA's Cassini spacecraft within Saturn's rings. NASA initially explained the noises heard by Apollo 10 as radio waves interacting with the moon's magnetic field. But here's the catch. The moon doesn't have a traditional magnetic field like planets do. So what generated these strange sounds? And an equally pressing question: why has there been such an effort to dismiss and downplay them? This brings us to another mystery from the Apollo missions, one shrouded in speculation. During the first lunar landing by Apollo 11, 2 minutes of radio and video communication mysteriously went silent. NASA attributed this to an equipment failure, despite the fact that their cutting-edge technology otherwise functioned flawlessly throughout the entire mission. Years later, close friends and family members of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin shared statements the two astronauts reportedly made in private about what really occurred during those 2 minutes of silence. Could their accounts hint at something or someone they encountered on the moon? And if true, how might this revelation reshape how we understand the moon's history and purpose? As more details about the Apollo missions come to light, the mysteries surrounding the moon deepen. During the Apollo 11 mission, Neil Armstrong reportedly switched to a private medical line, one not accessible to the public, and stated, "There are other spacecraft here, sir, lined up on the other side of the crater. Those babies are huge, enormous. They're watching us." Such a startling claim, if true, would not only change how we view the moon, but also confirm suspicions of extraterrestrial activity. Unfortunately, without access to all classified documents, the full truth remains hidden. What's clear, however, is the lasting impact this experience had on Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin. When they returned to Earth, the demeanor of these historic astronauts felt strangely cold and detached. Their lack of visible excitement, despite their monumental achievement, puzzled many observers. In interviews following their return, their body language seemed hesitant, as if they were withholding something significant. Take, for example, Armstrong's cryptic statement 25 years after Apollo 11, "There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers. There are places to go beyond belief." What exactly does he mean by truth's protective layers? Is someone, or something, intentionally shielding humanity from knowledge about the moon's secrets? And if this is a protective measure, who is being protected? Us, or perhaps those who reside behind the shield of mystery? This brings us back to the notion that the moon could be an artificial satellite, harboring evidence of something more. Over the years, various astronauts have spoken out about unexplained phenomena they witnessed in space. For instance, Scott Carpenter, known for his time aboard the Mercury Atlas 7 orbiter, once said, "At no time when the astronauts were in space were they alone. There was a constant surveillance by UFOs." Buzz Aldrin himself later mentioned finding a monolith on the moon of Mars and cryptically added, "When people find out about that, they'll say, 'Who put that there?'" What was he implying? Could the mysteries of Mars hint at parallels with the moon? Colonel Lieutenant Ellison Onizuka, the first Japanese-American to go to space, claimed to have seen small, humanoid-like entities that did not appear to be of earthly origin. Similarly, Edgar Mitchell, the sixth astronaut to walk on the moon, and a staunch believer in the existence of extraterrestrial life, shared, "Yes, there has been ET visitation, and it may continue to be. There's a lot of evidence that points to a clandestine group." Mitchell's statements raise even more questions. What is the connection between extraterrestrial life and this covert group? And why do they continue to keep these discoveries hidden from the world? As we dive deeper into the moon's mysteries, the evidence continues to challenge our accepted reality. Could the moon exist not merely as a celestial body, but as a mechanism influencing us in ways we don't yet fully understand? Some researchers even suggest that the moon may play a subtle role in controlling human behavior, fostering aggression and cultivating negativity. If this is true, who stands to benefit from these effects? While these ideas may seem far-fetched, it's undeniable that the secrecy surrounding the moon has perpetuated a divide between what we know and what we've been allowed to understand. Consider all that we've explored so far: the moon's rare geometric properties, its unusual mass, the presence of titanium and other architectural materials, and the structural anomalies resembling ruins. Add to this the accounts of ancient civilizations that spoke of a time before the moon, and the documented secrecy that seems to surround every attempt to uncover its truths. With all this in mind, it's worth asking, is the moon more than just a silent companion in the sky? If so, what purpose does it serve in the grand design of our universe? And can we ever uncover the truth beneath its shrouds of secrecy? If the moon is not a natural creation, then the question becomes, why was it placed there, and by whom? Could this celestial body be more than just a passive object in our sky? As we dive deeper into its effects on human life and behavior, the connections only grow more compelling. Consider the term lunacy, tracing back to the 16th century, which describes eccentric, erratic, or even violent behavior believed to be influenced by the full moon. While modern explanations dismiss such claims as superstition, historic accounts and ongoing studies suggest there may be more to this phenomenon. For example, a 4-year research project that concluded in 1982, later published on the National Institute of Health's website, found a dramatic increase in crime rates during each full moon phase. But why? While the biology behind this effect may remain underexplored, there are clear links between the moon's visible impact on the Earth and its possible effect on human beings. It's well known that the moon governs the tides, its gravitational pull, moving the vast bodies of water on Earth. Humans, being composed of approximately 60% water, are no exception to these influences. If the moon has such a profound effect on oceans and seas, why wouldn't it affect us on an individual biological level? Women, for instance, are affected by it monthly. The lunar cycle is intrinsically tied to their menstrual cycles, a rhythmic influence seen in almost 2 billion women globally. And then there is the almost instinctive knowledge shared by surgeons throughout history. Many avoided performing surgeries during a full moon, knowing the increased light and lunar activity resulted in heightened bleeding and slower recovery times. The moon's effects extend even further into our emotional and mental equilibrium. Let's talk about light. Human well-being depends on a balance of light and darkness. Exposure to light stimulates serotonin production, boosting our happiness and motivation, while darkness triggers the release of melatonin, vital for restful sleep, dreaming, and regenerating the mind. Melatonin also activates the pineal gland, linked to the release of DMT, often called the spirit molecule, for its role in spiritual awakening and expanded states of consciousness. Under a full moon, however, its brightness 250 times greater than during a dark night, can disrupt melatonin production. This sleep deprivation naturally leads to emotional instability, and for those with conditions like bipolar disorder or epilepsy, significantly increases the risk of manic episodes or seizures. Could it be that lunar anomalies interfere with human behavior on profound, unintended levels? But it doesn't stop there. In 2006, another study published on the NIH explored the moon's impact on the neuroendocrine system. This research suggested that the moon might influence the brain's lifelong clock, governing development and even the aging process over time. It raises a radical idea. Could the moon shape not only how we evolve, but how we perceive reality itself? Such a question adds yet another layer to our investigation into the moon's role in humanity's existence. Returning to earlier discussions about its unnatural properties, the hollow interior, architectural materials, and mathematically precise design, these effects encourage further speculation. If the moon indeed has the ability to affect us on a biological, psychological, and spiritual level, and if it's not a natural satellite, can we dismiss the notion that its placement was intentional? Are we looking at the moon not as a companion to Earth, but as an instrument of influence? With such evidence piling up, more and more researchers are questioning whether the moon has aspects of control embedded in its design. Does the moon, as an artificial satellite, play a role in holding humanity in states of conflict or negativity? Might it limit the full evolution of our consciousness? Such theories may sound extreme at first, but when we examine the data, the myths, and the tangible effects on our lives, these ideas begin to take shape. In its quiet orbit above us, the moon has always been a subject of fascination. Yet perhaps it has been quietly shaping life on Earth in profound ways for far longer than we've dared to imagine. If the moon has the power to impact our tides, our health, and even our consciousness, where does its influence end? If the moon's effects on our biological and psychological systems are as profound as they seem, could there be an intentional design behind it? Adding to this mystery is the possibility that the moon might not just be shaping our physical world, but influencing us on deeper, unseen levels, perhaps even spiritually or energetically. This brings us to ancient spiritual teachings that describe entities interested in manipulating humanity. Across various cultures and texts, these beings are known by different names: demons in Christianity, Nagas in Hinduism, and jinn in Islam. Contemporary authors like Eckhart Tolle have even described a type of low-frequency, unseen presence, referring to it as the pain body. Yet, perhaps the most detailed accounts of such beings come from the Gnostic Gospels, a collection of ancient texts unearthed in 1945 near Nag Hammadi, Egypt. These sacred writings, once banned and hidden for nearly 2,000 years, offer vivid descriptions of interdimensional entities they called the archons. According to the Gnostic view, these archons are not so much villains in a traditional sense, but are instead parasitic beings. Detached from the ultimate source of life and energy, they survive by feeding on the negative emotions and unconscious states of humanity. The Gnostic texts suggest that as long as humans remain ignorant of their sacred nature and greater spiritual potential, these archons continue to thrive. Their tool of choice? Ignorance, something the Gospel of Philip refers to as the mother of all evil. By keeping us disconnected from our own divinity, these entities metaphorically feed off our fear, insecurity, and suffering, functioning like invisible parasites. It's a chilling thought, one that reframes many historical struggles as much more than physical or political. They might also be spiritual battles. But how does this tie back to the moon? To answer this, let's take a closer look at human behavior through a scientific lens. In 1957, scientist Paul MacLean published groundbreaking research on our triune brain model, proposing that the innermost core of our brain, called the amygdala or brain stem, is similar in structure to those found in present-day reptiles. This reptilian brain governs our most basic survival instincts, including aggression, self-preservation, and our fight, flight, or freeze responses. It's what enables us to act decisively in moments of danger, but can also drive territorial behavior, competition, and even violence. Famed cosmologist Carl Sagan also spoke extensively about this reptilian influence in humanity. He described the reptilian brain as the seat of aggression, territoriality, and social hierarchy. Particularly chilling were his observations on how easily this part of the brain could be triggered, not just by survival threats, but by challenges to our self-image or beliefs. Even minor triggers, such as everyday annoyances or arguments, can activate our reptilian brain and amplify aggression. As Sagan once stated, the global balance of terror is a very delicate balance. It depends on reptilian passions not being seriously aroused. He warned against leaders and systems that exploit this primal part of our brain, using fear and division to manipulate mass behavior. What's most intriguing is the implication that the moon, whether through its gravitational force, its light cycles, or even its potential to heighten aggression, could be indirectly engaging this reptilian aspect of ourselves. If the moon's presence contributes to heightened conflict or division among humans, could this be yet another form of manipulation on a grand cosmic scale? Interestingly, the Gnostic idea of archons feeding off human negativity aligns uncannily well with the way our reptilian brain reacts to stresses. In this scenario, the moon could act as a catalyst, amplifying emotions, behaviors, and even societal structures that keep us in survival mode. During states of heightened survival instinct, humanity becomes more malleable, less capable of collective action or spiritual awakening. Is it possible that the moon serves as a tool for maintaining this state? Even in modern contexts, the effects of this brain chemistry can be seen in something as mundane as a traffic jam or a crowded waiting room. Simple frustrations can dim our awareness, triggering reptilian behaviors like impatience or anger. The more activated this part of our brain becomes, the easier it is for external forces, including societal and political influences, to manipulate us. Taken a step further, if the moon has shaped or been designed to shape our biology and behavior over millennia, then its influence may reach far beyond the tides and into the very core of what it means to be human. If the idea of our primal minds being manipulated seems extreme, consider one simple truth. The way we interpret reality is entirely reliant on the programming of our brains. Carl Sagan deeply understood this vulnerability in our reptilian brain, the primal seat of aggression and survival instincts. He warned that this part of ourselves is not only reactive to threat, but highly susceptible to external manipulation. Trigger it, and humanity easily falls into patterns of fear, aggression, and conformity, behaviors that make us more malleable. Whether this is caused by natural circumstances or something more deliberate, the implications are enormous. But the question remains, if such manipulation is at play, why aren't these influences visible to us? Interestingly, the moon might be a critical piece of this puzzle. Let's consider the concept of mind control. A stage hypnotist can convince someone to become completely blind to the presence of another person standing right in front of them. This is achieved by planting a mental block that prevents the subject's brain from decoding sensory input relative to that person. The result? The mind literally filters out the person's existence, even as everyone else perceives them clearly. If this level of influence can be demonstrated on a small scale, could something similar occur on a global or even cosmic scale? According to many spiritual leaders urging humanity to awaken, the answer is yes, it's entirely possible. We need to understand the energetic framework of the universe to delve deeper. At its core, reality is a collective information field composed of photons, the quantum particles of light that carry electromagnetic radiation. What we perceive as real is our brain decoding photons into electrical signals based on its programming. The brain then projects this information as a holographic reality. But what if the information reaching our brains is manipulated or filtered in some way? Just as a hypnotist can interfere with a subject's perception, could there be a cosmic factor doing the same to us? Here's how the moon ties into this. As photons stream into our solar system, their paths are influenced by the magnetic fields of celestial bodies like the Sun and Earth. The moon, however, has no magnetic field, meaning it doesn't filter or absorb this radiation like other objects. Instead, it reflects the full spectrum of electromagnetic energy straight back to Earth, creating extreme temperatures at its poles that can swing between 200 degrees Fahrenheit to minus 400. Think of this reflection as an uninterrupted mirror. Some researchers, like David Icke, propose that this reflective quality might serve a far more sophisticated purpose than we realize. His radical idea suggests the moon acts as a kind of cosmic firewall, deliberately interrupting and filtering specific photons or frequencies that enter our system from the galaxy. According to Icke, the moon's role as a firewall specifically deflects higher frequency electromagnetic waves, the kind that could potentially expand our consciousness and elevate our awareness. At the same time, it amplifies lower frequency waves, keeping humanity locked in negative emotional states dominated by fear, anger, and survival instincts. In this scenario, the moon is directly reinforcing the reptilian impulses of our brains, disconnecting us from our higher selves and ensuring we stay reactive and focused on the material world. The Gnostics described something similar with their concept of the archons, unseen forces cultivating ignorance and fear to maintain control. If these entities exist, could the moon be their tool to preserve humanity's ignorance of its divine potential? To understand this analogy even better, Icke compares the moon's function to a Wi-Fi router broadcasting restricted internet access. Electromagnetic energy from the sun transmits information in waveform, just as Wi-Fi transmits the internet. But if the moon acts like a filter, deliberately firewalling certain information, then humans are only receiving a limited spectrum of data. This controlled bandwidth traps humanity in a low vibrational state of awareness, effectively keeping us from perceiving higher realities. If such a system exists, then the moon might not just be a passive participant in the cosmos, rather, it could be an active mechanism designed with intention. While this theory may seem far-fetched to some, consider how many ways reality is already distorted in today's world. Governments, like the Chinese government, actively control and limit information to their citizens, filtering what they can access online. Could a cosmic version of this same tactic exist, keeping us unaware of reality's bigger picture? If so, What truths about ourselves and the universe are we being prevented from uncovering? If the idea of reality being hacked on a cosmic scale seems far-fetched, we only need to look at how information control is practiced here on Earth. For example, the Chinese government heavily censors the internet, restricting what its citizens can and cannot access. If one were to search for Tiananmen Square from within China, they'd find no mention of the 1989 massacre where students were killed during pro-democracy protests. Instead, they'd see carefully chosen images of smiling citizens visiting the square. In this way, an entire reality is rewritten for millions of people. Could something similar happen on a global scale if the moon itself acts as a system of control, determining what stimuli and frequencies we experience? If governments can rewrite history to suit their agenda, could cosmic forces be doing the same to limit human potential? Interestingly, China plans to launch its own artificial moon to brighten the night sky. This second moon could significantly impact not only biological rhythms, such as our need for darkness to produce melatonin, but also the natural behaviors of Earth's nocturnal creatures. Beyond the immediate implications, questions arise. Is this just a technological beacon, or could it have a greater role in surveillance and control? Are today's governments unknowingly or knowingly adapting the cosmic playbook? Adding another layer to this puzzle is the provocative perspective of Barbara Marciniak, an internationally recognized author and trance channel. Marciniak doesn't shy away from bold claims. She describes the moon as a very powerful electromagnetic computer that limits human development. According to her, the moon has been beaming restricting electromagnetic frequencies onto Earth for eons, leading humanity to keep functioning on two-stranded DNA when, allegedly, humans were designed to have 12-stranded DNA. This claim aligns with ideas of genetic manipulation, as it suggests the moon serves as a mediating and monitoring device, akin to a skybound supercomputer. Marciniak describes Earth's relationship with the moon not as a natural occurrence, but as a grand experiment overseen by extraterrestrial forces. She argues these external entities prevent humans from fully accessing their innate spiritual and physical potential, keeping humanity from awakening fully to its higher self. This perspective ties into the suggestion that Earth itself is owned by these higher beings, its destiny shaped beyond the control of its inhabitants. Marciniak's theory also suggests that the moon's cycles influence Earth's biology and culture in ways that keep us trapped in repetitive patterns. If true, this would effectively position the moon not as a passive satellite, but as a very intentional and interactive device. Yet, Marciniak claims the world might not remain under this influence forever. As cosmic changes unfold, there may be a shift wherein the moon becomes an instrument not of limitation, but of liberation, assisting humanity's growth. This idea opens the door to an unsettling possibility that the moon could change its influence depending on who controls it, a battle for the moon's intent, so to speak. Adding to this intrigue is the discovery made in 2014 by an amateur astronomer and physicist known online as Crow. While filming the moon with a high-powered telescope, he recorded what appeared to be a thermal or energy wave moving across its surface. The footage sparked debate worldwide, with many speculating that this wave could indicate some form of advanced technology or even the projection of a holographic image onto the moon itself. Was this lunar wave evidence of the moon operating as a controlled system? Skeptics may call it an optical illusion. but its perfectly symmetrical traverse of the moon's surface suggests otherwise. Crow's footage raises significant questions. What exactly is happening on or around the moon, and why does it seem to consistently defy our expectations? With mounting evidence of strange lunar phenomena, the question we keep coming back to is this: if the natural evolution of humanity has been limited, whether through physical or energetic manipulation, what forces are responsible? And if the moon truly serves as more than just an object of influence, a carefully calibrated system, what are the ultimate implications for human freedom and understanding of reality? These are questions that demand exploration, and they may hold the key to truths buried deep within both science and spirituality. If the idea of a moon matrix sounds implausible, consider the possibility that certain cosmic forces, much like the interdimensional entities described in the Gnostic Gospels, might play a role in shaping how humanity experiences reality. Ancient legends suggest battles over the moon's control, a notion that aligns with contemporary claims of its influence beyond mere reflection. Could there truly be forces working both to limit human progress and to assist in our spiritual awakening? While this might seem like science fiction, strange phenomena continue to emerge that challenge our understanding. Consider the lunar wave discovered by the astronomer Crow in 2014. Using his telescope to film the moon, he noticed a thermal energy-like wave coursing across its surface, an anomaly that he claimed could shift the moon's perceived location by millimeters in the video, an actual displacement translating to miles on the moon itself. Crow theorized that the wave was evidence of a projected hologram, potentially masking something hidden on the moon's surface. It's a bold claim, but one worthy of thought. If Crow is correct and the moon's image is being manipulated, then what is being concealed? Advanced technology, structures, or perhaps even life itself? As strange as this theory may sound, Crow wasn't the only one to notice the phenomenon. Many other independent observers have documented the occurrence, particularly near the full moon, suggesting a recurring pattern. While the true origin and purpose of the lunar wave remain uncertain, Crow's observations highlight something undeniable. The moon is far more than a static rock hanging in space. Whether natural or artificial in origin, it continues to defy our expectations. Crow himself expressed his conclusion succinctly but powerfully. Ignorance is bliss, and reality is way stranger than fiction. This leads us to a more philosophical problem: the nature of reality itself. If what we perceive as real is merely the outcome of electrical signals interpreted by our brain, as suggested in The Matrix, then are we truly seeing the world for what it is? Ancient texts and prominent spiritual thinkers challenge this assumption, suggesting that our perceptions of the moon and even our greater existence could be part of a grand illusion designed to keep us ignorant of deeper truths. So what if, temporarily freed from our limitations, we could expand our consciousness beyond the filters imposed by our biology and environment? Would we find benevolent forces guiding us, or discover darker entities lurking at the edges of perception, feeding off our ignorance and fear? Well-known psychic and whistleblower Laura Eisenhower has a message of hope for humanity about this very topic. The great-granddaughter of President Dwight D. Eisenhower, she discusses what she believes to be the hidden control systems, or matrix, manipulating humanity. Yet, unlike more ominous theories, Eisenhower affirms that the tide is changing. We are finally breaking free, she says, pointing to a growing global awakening. According to her, those forces of control rely on humanity's energy, like a flashlight requires a battery. Because the human spirit is an inexhaustible flame, as Eisenhower describes it, their ability to feed off us diminishes as we awaken to our potential. Taking our power back, she says, cannot be stopped. She urges humanity to reclaim this power through focus, creative intention, and awareness, emphasizing that the solutions lie in our hands. Historical wisdom echoes this call to action. Whether through the Gnostics, who advocated for wisdom and detachment as tools of liberation, or biblical guidance, such as the words of Paul in Romans 12, "Do not conform to the pattern of this world, but be transformed by the renewing of your mind." The message is clear. Humanity is not powerless. Despite the many questions surrounding the moon's nature and its potential role within a greater cosmic plan, we are not without choice. If reality itself is being altered or obscured, then understanding and reclaiming our ability to perceive more fully could be the ultimate rebellion against limitation. The way forward begins with consciousness and the courage to challenge the patterns designed to keep us stagnant. The evidence, as scattered as it may seem, points toward a greater truth, that freedom lies within our willingness to open our minds and explore the mysteries of not just the moon, but the universe that surrounds us. As we conclude this journey through the moon's most enigmatic mysteries, we're left with one undeniable takeaway. The universe is filled with truths that lie just beyond the edge of our understanding, waiting to be explored. The question is, are we brave enough to look? If the moon serves as more than just a natural satellite, if it indeed holds secrets that challenge the very foundation of what we accept as reality, then our responsibility is to ask the difficult questions and seek the answers, no matter how unsettling they may be. As Carl Sagan recognized, the true challenge isn't the emergence of new, mind-altering information. It's our response to it. When our belief systems are questioned, fear often takes over, but fear can block progress. It's this very reaction, ingrained deep within our primal selves, that might be our greatest obstacle to unlocking the mysteries of both the moon and our universe. Consider what we've explored: the moon's perfect mathematical placement, its seemingly unnatural properties, the wave-like anomalies observed crossing its surface, and the accounts of those who've questioned its origins. The evidence, as scattered as it may appear, forms a picture that begs further analysis. Could the moon be a part of some cosmic experiment, an observation tool, or even an instrument designed to control human behavior and perception? And importantly, can humanity break free from the influences, natural or otherwise, that might hold us back? Of course, these are not questions that mainstream science has answered, not yet at least. But the greatest discoveries begin not with answers, but with inquiries that shake the very foundation of what we know. In the 1950s, physicist Enrico Fermi questioned why, if the universe is so vast, Earth has seen no definitive evidence of extraterrestrial life. Known as the Fermi paradox, this question remains unanswered. But is it because there's no evidence, or is the evidence known to only a select few? The testimonies of astronauts, leaked documents, and anomalous discoveries all suggest that perhaps the full truth is withheld, hidden under layers of secrecy and societal control. In Edgar Mitchell's words, there is a clandestine group withholding information. He might as well have been describing the moon itself, a cosmic enigma that might one day rewrite humanity's collective understanding of reality. So what will you do with this information? Will you shrug it off, dismissing it as conspiracy or coincidence? Or will you dare to explore, to question, and to dream beyond the limits imposed by what we've been told to accept? There's a great deal left to uncover, not just about the moon, but about the universe as a whole. Each unanswered question is an invitation to expand your mind, challenge your assumptions, and discover the real truths hidden in plain sight. Thank you for joining us today on this exploration of lunar mysteries. If you found this journey thought-provoking, let us know by hitting the like button. We'd love to hear your thoughts in the comments. What do you believe is the moon's ultimate purpose? And as always, we invite you to stay curious and explore further. Don't forget to subscribe to Secrets of the Eternal so you never miss another deep dive into the truths and mysteries of the universe. And if you'd like to be notified when new content is released, just hit the bell icon. Until next time, keep questioning, keep imagining, and keep reaching for the stars. The truth is out there, just waiting for us to find it. Don't forget to like and subscribe.